Okay, hello everyone. This is Victor Momo from Excel Moments, and in this video I'll be walking you through my solution to a conditional formatting problem I saw on the forums. It's easy to just come and post the solution, but I think there's more value in walking you through the thought process. Some approaches, why they would work, why they won't work, and some pitfalls to avoid, and finally, the solution in itself. I'll put some timestamps to the video, so if you want to skip to the solution, you can do that, but I believe that you get a lot of value, walking through it from beginning to end. So I'll just put out a caveat now and say, oh, long video alert, but it should be worth your time. So let me describe the problem and I'll go ahead and then walk you through. So you have data that looks, something like this. Don't pay too much attention to, the numbers or anything. What the OP wants here is I put an address and I put a cell count, and I want the cells in that range to be conditionally formatted. So let me explain. If I put an address of K4, this is K4, right? This cell. And when I put a cell count of 5, it means pick 5 cells to the left, including K4. So K4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what I want formatted. So if I change this, for example, now to M3, and I put this as 3. So what it means is from M3, which is this M3, I want 3 cells formatted, including M3. And we are going to the left. So that's the problem that we want to solve. I set this up already, but I want to show you from scratch. Okay, so when I saw this problem, the first thing that came to my mind was to use, the offset function. Okay, so because I know I'm having a starting point and then I'm having a couple of cells in that range, so I said, okay, offset will work for this. The first thing you need to know is that here he puts in the address. So for you to pick out maybe the value from that address, you may need to use the indirect function, right? So if I do, for example, here and say indirect of this cell, what this means is indirect, although you are seeing indirect of T2, but T2 contains O3. So indirect would translate O3 to a name, which would become, of course, a cell name, a cell address, and then it figures out what is in O3. And you see it gives you whatever is in O3, which is 121. Okay, so that's something you probably cannot avoid. So now let's look at what the offset would look like. So I start off with the offset, right? And my reference would be whatever I have in this cell, but I can't just point to O3. So I'm going to do indirect of what? As in T2. Okay. So this translates to O3, right? So now this is going to be my starting point, like my anchor or pivot point. And then rows, I'm not, moving by the rows, because what he wants is just, the same on the same row to have a certain number of cells formatted. So I'm not doing any offset on the rows. I'm not doing any offsets on the columns. I know this is going to be, one row, so I can put my height as 1. My width now, the offset allows you to move in both directions, left and right. If you take the positive number here, 7, then you'll be saying from O3 you're going towards the right. But if you use -7, then you'll be going towards the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do minus, and then I'm going to select this cell. Okay, so what it means is that start off with O3 and then select 7 cells to the left. Okay, now let's press enter here and see. Okay, so let's see if this makes some sense. So starting from O3, so where's O3? So this is O3 here, 1, 2, 1. If you take 7 cells, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so you can see that offset gives us that range, and we get that range perfectly. So that's fine. So this already seems to be like, oh, okay, I think this makes a lot of sense. So what I can now test is that for every cell, I will kind of test if that cell is within, this range that I specified. I'm not going to be testing based on the numbers, and saying, oh, it's 2 or 131 or 191 within this, because, you have duplicate numbers. So that's not what I'm testing. I'm really testing if the address, that I have, for this particular cell is in, this range that has been spat out by the function. Okay. So now this brings me to something else that you may have seen or you may not have seen. You can use the intersect operator. The intersect operator is a space. Okay, so for example, let's look at this. Let me show you so that you understand what that means. So the intersect operator can give you the value at the intersection point of 2 ranges. So let's look at, let's say I take these 3 cells, okay, and I take these 3 cells. Okay, what's at the intersection? The intersection is 186. So how do you do this with a formula? Notice that the first range is B2 to D2 and the other one is C1 to C3. So look at this. So you do B2 to D2, you leave a space, and then you do C1 to C3. What this is saying is that give me, the cell at the intersection of these two ranges, okay? And you see that it gives you 186. Okay, so I'm going to use the same idea here. So I'm going to test, if this range, this is included in this range, if there's an intersection at all. So this is how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to start off with this. Okay, B2, I leave a space. So this is like saying B2 and that offset range. It's trying to check if there's an intersection. If there's an intersection, it will give you a value. If there's no intersection, it's going to give you a null, set, which is like, oh, no intersection. So let's do this. Okay, so you see null. Null here is saying that, oh, I can't see any intersection. Let's take this to the right. This is for every of the cells in row 2. Let's take this down to like say 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see here. All right, so let's kind of, expand to see what's going on. All right, so now you see that everywhere where there's a, an intersection, it returns the values correctly. So you could use here, for example, you could set this up in such a way that, you put an if error, or it's null or whatever, so that you can have true and false. And that way you've been able to distinguish those that don't fall into the range from those that fall into the range. And you can then use that value in the conditional formatting. So let me just change this so that you see what I mean. If I do K5 and change this to 3, for example, okay, you can see the new cells, right? Okay, so this is one way, and this would work. I can just put, if for example, I just add here, as in around it, I just put if error, and maybe I put a text and say no intersect, no int. Let's just put it that way for now. Okay, all right, then you could take this to the right, right? So I can just use my conditional formatting and check, where I don't have the text no int, and that will be what I want. The only challenge I have with this is that I need to create this range, somewhere, on the cell. Somebody would say to me, oh, Victor, you don't have to do that. You can just take this expression, and take it into conditional formatting, and then you run into a problem. So let's go to conditional formatting. Okay, Alt-O-D will take you in there, do new row. Let me use a formula, and then, so let me just say, now I'm testing this and I want to say, okay, wherever it is not equal to, so to say, no int, that's my expression really, that wherever it's not equals to no int, it means that, there's actually a number there, or there's a value there, and those are the cells I want to format. I could choose anything for my formatting. Let me just do fill, let me just do green, and then do my font, and I do white. This is not the important part. This is just aesthetics really. Okay, and I do okay. Now you see a big problem. It says you may not use reference operators such as unions, intersections. So that's where I got caught. I can't use intersections, array and ranges, array constants, or the lambda function. Okay, so I even had, another solution which was kind of lambda-ish, but that would also work, but I can't use, the function directly in the conditional formatting. So the implication is that you have to kind of set up, like an identical range to your range, somewhere on the sheet, and then reference that in the conditional formatting, which is not bad, but it just means that, you have to keep a duplicate range. Somebody may delete, that range, and then you're in trouble. I would rather just have, a formula that works straight up in the conditional formatting. So this is one approach, not bad, but I guess you've gotten some ideas from some of the things that I've shared, in there. Let me show you, like another one. So let me just take out this portion. Let me take out this portion. Let's leave just the offset part. All right, I'm going to take out everything here. Okay, so now here I have the range that I'm interested in. So what I want to do is I may want to get the cell addresses of the cells within the range I'm looking for. So I should be able to use something that looks like this. I can say cell, and then use the address parameter. Okay, so what this is supposed to do, and you expect this to work in dynamic arrays, in the sense that it should give you the cell address of every cell within that offset range. But this is what you come up with. Okay, you see that it only gives you the first one, which is in this case I5, right? So let me see, IJK, yeah, so I5. All right, so, and that's not what you want. You want to have, a way of actually getting the cell addresses of all the cells within that range. One of the Lambda helper functions now comes in handy, which is, by column. You can use, the BYCOL helper function to kind of spit out, the addresses of every of the cells within this range. So let me show you how to do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. This is my range, I know already. So everything here, this offset, that's my range. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the by row. So I'm going to do by row, and then this will be my range. Okay, after that, then I'm going to call lambda. Okay, so I call lambda, and then for the lambda now, I may want to refer to, this range I've just put there. I may want to refer to it as X. So it means that everywhere I see that range, I can call it X. So rather than doing this, okay, here, I'm just going to do X. Okay, so now this closes the cell, it closes the lambda, this closes the by row. What this just means is that, oh, sorry, I meant by col. I need to get it by column because they are all on the same row. So what it means is that look through this range and give me the results for each of the columns within this range. That's what it's doing, right? Okay, so this is not a lambda tutorial, but you get some ideas from it. Okay, so it means that it looks at this range, whatever this range is. If the cells there are C4 to, let's say, K4, it is going to spill the address. So that's what you are saying here. You are now representing this whole range. Every cell in that range, you say, let it be an X. Now you are saying, give me the address of X and do it by col, meaning do it from one column to the other, like that, left to right. Okay, so okay, good. So now you see that I'm able to spit out the addresses of all the cells within the range. So if I change this to M4 and I change this to, let's say, 7, okay, so I can now see, all the, the cell addresses in there. Okay, so what I can now do is I can now test using each of these cells here. I can test, maybe either do a count if or do a match and say, is the address of this cell somewhere, within this range, like something like this. Let me just show you that. So let me say match. I could do, let's say cell address of this guy. Okay, so obviously that will give you $B, $2, right? So I kind of match this, within this range. I could use the hash, right, to take advantage of the fact that it spills. Okay, and then do 0, something like that. So now it says hash NA. All right. Okay, I need to make this, sorry, let's put a $, here. Let's just make this absolute. Okay, so let's take this to the right. Right, let's take this down. Okay, so you can see that you are still able to get, the cells that you're interested in some way or form. So with the hash NA, this is easy too. You can set up your if error, and all of that, and you can use it in conditional formatting. But the challenge here is that, even if you have to do that, you still have to reference. So you may not need to, have this range here. You just need to have this particular range, the range that spills out the addresses, and you can reference that. It means I can just take this expression, for example. I can take this expression and take it, to conditional formatting. Of course, I would have loved to just take this by row or by call expression and use it in conditional formatting, but conditional formatting doesn't accept lambdas, so I get stuck on that one too. So what it means is that for this to work, even with conditional formatting, this range has to be somewhere, on the sheet. Okay, because that's the only way you can do your match against that. So you can see that there are two different ideas I've used here, but the two of them, you still kind of need to have, some data on the sheet, right? But I would prefer, just being able to do it straight up in conditional formatting, without having to use the helper columns. I'm not saying it's wrong, and I'm not saying, don't do it, but they have their pros and their cons. It's good to also see this, but then again, if I have like, a range of 10,000 cells, it means I need to create a duplicate range of 10,000 cells just, to cater for that. Okay, so now to the method that actually, works. It's going to be long, lengthy, but at the end of the day, a good solution to it. So here's the thought process to this one. You know that the OP has selected an address, okay, and whatever cells you are highlighting must be on the same row. We know that because we are not having any offset on the rows. The only thing is that there's going to be, as in a difference in the columns, okay? So we are going to put those conditions together, into maybe like an AND, or we could multiply them together, get a true or get a 1, we can set it up. I'm going to show you on the, worksheet, but I'll show you that it's also a formula that you can easily also, put into, conditional formatting. It's nice to actually walk through this. I enjoy, the challenge of recording a video and kind of doing it on the spot. Okay, so let me walk you through this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test each cell, first of all, to be sure it's on the same row as the target address. Then I will then show you how to address the column part. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with this and say, first of all, the row of, say, this cell. So row of B2 is just going to tell you the row B2 is on, which is 2. I'm going to test if that row is the same as the row of my address here. But don't forget that for me to get this address, I need to use indirect. So I'm going to do indirect of this. Okay, right? So this is just testing. Is that cell B2 on the same row as the target? Okay, so you can see false. If you drag this down, don't forget this is for row 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5. Okay, so you can see that 4 gives you a true, because yes, if I'm in B4, I'm on the same row as M4. Okay, but that's not enough. You also need to now test the columns. Now, one thing you know is that because the person is formatting from, let's say, M, to the left, it means that whatever column you are choosing, first of all, must be somewhere to the left, or at the very worst in column M, meaning that it cannot be to the right of this address that you have here. So it means that if I do column of this cell, right, it must be less than or equal to, because it's somewhere to the left, less than or equal to, the column of, that address here, which is this one. Follow? Okay. So because the way I'm formatting, if I put M4 here, I will format M and format everything to the left. So it means that the column of whatever cell that I'm interested in is somewhere, to the left. So it's either less than, M, or it's equal to M, because M should also be included. So that's, maybe the not too tricky part. But now if you do that, it means that it's going to format every cell from, M all the way to the end. But don't forget that you have a cell count here, which restricts, the number of cells that can be formatted, right? So it means you need to put another condition to ensure that, you're only covering the cells that you're interested in. So this part may look a little tricky, but let me stop. Okay, let me just put this here first and kind of just explain this portion. So this portion of it is just saying that the last portion is that if I'm in M now, I'm going to format 6 cells excluding M, right? So it just means, okay, let's see, how many is this? Okay, the count is 6. Okay, this is 7. Right? So if M is here and M is column 13, right? If M is column 13, and then I'm stopping at column G, which is column 7, you can see that the difference is 6. So it means that the highest difference I can have between maybe my M and wherever I'm going to stop, the highest difference I will have is 1 less than this cell count. I'll take that again. If this is column 13, it means I'm stopping on column 7. The difference is 6. Which is 1 less than this. So it means that every column that has a difference of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 6, is within my range. So it means whatever count I have here, if I have this count as 5, it means that every cell that has a difference, of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, should be formatted. Okay, so that's the idea I'm going to implement in here. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to put the last condition. My last condition is that the column of, this cell that we have as our target. So I'm going to still use my indirect. You know that you can shorten all these portions of the indirect by maybe using a let function. Okay, but I'm kind of showing you in the long form. So it means that the column of, this cell, when you say the column of that minus the column of whatever cell you're on. So if I do column B2, for example, okay, right, you want it to be less than equal to this cell minus 1. So what it means is that if I have 7 cells to be formatted, the difference between me and, the last cell, of course, is 6. So anything from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is fine. Okay, so this only allows you to, bracket it, because what you've done initially was just to say format everything to the left, because we know it's to the left. Well, now this will kind of put a boundary so that it doesn't go all the way to the left. It stops at a certain point. Okay, so it's less than equal to this minus 1. So let's close the bracket. I think that's the last bracket we need. Okay, so now let's take this down. All right, so you can see all these are zeros. Let's take this to the right. Okay, so you can see where we have the ones. So the ones are everywhere. Of course, if you can read this on row 4 and starting, okay, yes, sorry, including this, including M. All right. So if you change these to, let's say, K5 and do 3, you will see that I'm on row 5. That's row 5 will be formatted. This is K and this is KJL. Okay, and you have your 3. So this way you can now test. So it means that anyone that gives you a value of 1 should be formatted. Anyone that gives you a 0 should not be formatted. So this expression, I can take this expression. I'm not going to shorten it in this case. I'm just going to take it this way. I think I've done some complex things here. So let me just, not make it any more complex. So what I can do is I would now take that formula. That was what I'm going to use in my conditional formatting. So I'm going to go to conditional formatting, and then I will do new rule. I'll select to use a formula, and then I paste that formula. But my test is that, is this equals to 1? If the value is equals to 1, it means that, yes, that's a cell I want to format. If it's not 1, then I'm not interested. So I go to format, and then I go to fill, I do green, and then font, I do white. Okay. All right. I do okay, and I do okay. Let's do apply. All right. And I do okay. So with this, it means I can get rid of this, right? Okay. And then I could change this cell to, let's say, let's do Q3 and then do 5. Okay, as you can see, it starts from Q. This is Q row 3, and it takes 5 cells. Let me just do one more. Let's just do H6. I mean, I could put, more handlers. I mean, like say, oh, sorry, I don't have 6 in my formatting. So let's say H5 and 5. I could put, some more error handling in the sense that somebody's selecting a cell that is going to go out of the worksheet, because you could put a count here that takes you before column A. I wonder what that column would be, but this in its simple form, it's kind of what, gets you to, to a solution. So I hope you've really enjoyed, this video. It's a long one, but I think I also enjoyed, doing it more like being, on the hot seat and kind of walking you through it. You saw a few things here and there, how to use the intersect operator. It didn't work in this sense because, the conditional formatting wouldn't accept it, but it's something that you can use in some other problems. You also saw how to use by row or by call. I think that was what I used eventually. That's the by call, by column helper function for the Lambda, because some functions do not spill, like cell address. I expected that cell address would be able to give me the address of every cell in a range, but it didn't. But with by call, it was able to, spill that out. I was able to also use that to get something nice, but just that lambdas will not also work in conditional formatting. The other thing is that for all the previous approaches I had shown, I will have to have data on the worksheet. But this is the only one that I have that, I don't need to have any data on the worksheet. I mean, any helper cells, I can just directly put the formula in conditional formatting and it's fine. But of course, if you don't have a problem, putting helper cells, you can use any of their other approaches. They would definitely, work for you. So if you like this video, please hit the like button. You can also subscribe to the channel Excel Moments. And if you have comments, feedback, please feel free to put them in the comment section. If you also want me to do a video on a particular topic or concept, I'll be more than happy to do that. So you can also put that in the comment section and I'll gladly oblige. So for now, I'm out.